Welcome to Justice Now. This is a part of the series of Tips for Black Workers, Part 20. And this is more for parents of children or guardians of children that attend school. Your children are getting trained, and the school is sort of like a work environment for them, where they go in, they are trained, they're doing tasks, and their job is to learn and to ask questions and to get particular grades in order to move on to the next grade, ultimately to complete school altogether. This would be both elementary school and high school. And again, for children, school is much like the workforce, for the exception that they're not getting paid, for the exception that they often don't know the policies and procedures. They're fresh minds that are being receptive to much information around them. They are also, in a lot of ways, being terrorized without having understanding as to what's happening to them. So I can give you some examples of some examples that I can take from when I went to elementary and high school, and also what I've seen and what I've heard from children, from Black children. And parents need to be mindful of this and be really supportive if their children are experiencing situations, which most likely they are, experiencing situations that are detrimental to their development, their psychological development, their academic development, and otherwise. So when I was 5 years old, I remember that there was a Easter candle in which each day would be burnt down in order to signify how close it was to Easter. And this was times where, fire safety codes may have been there, but they allowed kids to light the candle in the classroom. And at the ripe age of 5 years old, I noticed that the teacher would only select certain kids, mainly the white kids, or the Asian kids, but not the Black kids. So I remember, with my innocent observation, raising my hand and asking, why is it only the white and Asian kids that are burning down the days of the candle? Because what the teacher would do was she would go through the rotation of first the white kids, then the Asian kids, and then she'd select the white kids again. So on that day when I asked, I was offered to burn down one day, to light the candle, to have it burn down one day. And then immediately after, when I got home, my parents told me that the teacher called and said I was bad at school. And I turned to them and I said I wasn't bad. And then they asked what happened. And I said, well, I noticed that all the white kids got to burn down the candle, all the Asian kids got to burn down the candle, but she never selected the Black kids. And I got hit for that. I was disciplined for that. So I got a spanking, and I was told that I wasn't meant to ask questions, just do as the teacher says. And it had a negative taste in my mouth. I mean, the fact that I could remember it all these years, it left a really negative taste in my mouth. Because at a time when I thought that my parents would support me. They did not. But mind you, they thought that they were doing the right thing. You know, during my time, a child was supposed to be quote unquote in their place and not ask questions of adults, right? Children are only to listen to adults and do what adults say. So then, later on, my mom would be checking my work, and I'm still in the same teacher's class. My mom would be checking my work, and then my mom would notice the teacher is check marking correct answers that are wrong. And then that's when my mom started recognizing what was going on. And then from there, that's when she went to the school. So there are incidents where teachers will actually engage in this type of terrorism of children. There was another situation. This is when I was in grade 6. I was going to Catholic school at that time, and there was a gym teacher that was particularly fixated on me. And what would happen is I would go into the playground. Whenever this particular teacher was on duty, this gym teacher, he would literally follow me from one end of the playground to the other. There'd be times where I would be called out of the class. So this gym teacher would call me out of class, and he would say to me, "Oh, what's going on? Is there anything going on in your home? What's happening?" And I go, "Nothing's happening." And then he would pull me up against the locker, holding both of my wrists and stepping closer to me. And I would cry. And he goes, "Oh, something's going on in your home." And I'm like, "Nothing's going on." But I was too scared. I was too scared to say something because I knew at age 12 that I most likely would not be believed because I'm a child. And that this teacher, this gym teacher who was well liked, would be more believed than I. There was even one time that I was in the gym, and one of the students, because myself and the other student had to put away a ball, the gym teacher came in, and the gym was darkened, and he told the student, "Okay, you can leave now." So he told the other student that. So I went to go and put away the ball, and then the gym teacher stopped me and started to stroke my arm. And it was very, very scary. And I yelled no, and I ran out of the gym. The same gym teacher then started telling the other teachers that somehow I was molested at home. They started spreading this campaign about how I'm being molested at home. And then there was an investigation about that. And I told the CAS worker that I was not being molested at home. But again, when they said, "Well, then who's doing this?" Again, I was so scared because I had to go back to that same school. I still didn't mention who the perpetrator was. Then in high school, there was a situation where there was a female teacher that just came up to me and says, "You look like you have a chip on your shoulder." This was for summer school. I didn't know who this teacher was, but she felt that and told me that I had a chip on my shoulder, which was really odd because, again, she never expressed what that chip on the shoulder was. And she would constantly chastise me in class, in the hallway. She would target me. And then when I turned to her and I said, "If you don't stop, I'll call my parents," she turned around and said, "What? You have to call your parents? You're not big enough to handle this on your own?" That's what she said. This is just a small snippet of different experiences, and I have many more, in which black children are terrorized in the school. So for parents, I definitely urge you and recommend that you have that open line of communication. Show up at the school from time to time to see what's going on. But talk to your children about what's happening. Teach them about racism. Teach them about the effects and what to look out for. Give them the tools of how to handle, which includes calling you for reinforcement and support. Because again, there's a lot of things that happen that a child may not understand, and they are rendered defenseless. And oftentimes they are alone in handling the situation, and resentment builds. And the resentment is not towards the teacher who is doing this to them. The resentment is towards the parents who are meant to protect them. They feel let down. Because I know I felt let down. Now, when I was contracted at the school to do some work duties, I had also noticed how in one situation there was a female black child who was being patted on the bum by a lot of the white boys. And I made sure that I spoke up and supported her and would tell those boys, you need to stop. And I would inform the teacher about this. And as a result, it stopped. If you see this going on, you need to step in and say something. Children need to be protected. They should not be chastised. And I wouldn't say bullied, I would say terrorized at school. So, I just, again, recommend parents have that open line of communication, and definitely check in with the school. If you find that the administrators and the teachers at the school are not being supportive, get very familiar with the school policies. Usually, nowadays, it's much easier to get a hold of the school policies. Look on the school website or the website of the school board or school district, and review the policies. Get very, very familiar with the policies and procedures so that you can refer to them when need be. Do not argue and create a scene. I know that some parents will be very emotional and want to do that. Try not to be emotional. Maintain composure. Just like at work, if someone's chastising you, you maintain composure. The same thing you do at the schools. You maintain composure, you get very familiar with the policies and procedures, and you proceed from there. And you make sure that you document. You document what's going on. If you notice that schoolwork is coming home and it's being checked marked correct when it's incorrect, you make sure that you collect that as evidence. And if need be, you take it up to the superintendent if you can't have it resolved at the school level. And if the superintendent is not also being helpful, then you take it up to the board trustees or to a similar setup in whichever country you are in. I hope this was helpful. If you have any experiences, please comment. Also like and subscribe.